Thar is not the best place for the GIB. It is a good habitat for that. The Deccan was the best place. Rolapadu Sanctuary is 66 square kilometer, wonderfully protected. They were breeding successfully there, and we saw many chicks. But the surrounding areas were being changed.
After 2018, there is no population estimation. We all are like running here and there. कोई कुछ भी बोलेगा, 100 बोलेगा, 80 बोलेगा, 150 बोलेगा.
To divert attention, climate change की वजह से हो गया ये गड़बड़ हो गई है. See, the bird used to live from Haryana to Tamil Nadu. तो climate तो अलग-अलग था ना वहाँ पे, है?
We have in our Western Rajasthan concept as a Oran. It's a sacred growth. They have their religious practices there. They have their village water body. They have their own pasture land. So you can't take away that right from them. Even the outside boundary of Desert National Park, that is totally under the community ownership. Like somebody is having its own farm, own खेत. वहाँ अगर GIB आती है, अब आप अगर उसको बोलोगे कि हम आपका खेत अगर एनक्लोजर बनाएंगे.
Great Indian Bustard is surviving in the Desert National Park, which is 3,162 square kilometer, and field filing range because there are no wire inside. GIB has to be lucky every day when it flies. In some areas where the power lines have to go underground.
In Delhi, we have 8,000 kilometers of high tension wire underground. So for human habitation, the rule is clearly that you have to underground the cable. But 100 birds, less than 100 living in this, only 100 kilometers, we are not willing to spend the money.
1 kilometer undergrounding is 1 crore. 250 crores is enough to save it.
The conservation breeding will be successful only if the habitat is there and the wild birds are also in the habitat. Fortunately, it is going very successfully. Probably in 2-3 years they will be raising or releasing few birds. Failure is not an option for us.
For joining us for the second discussion of Green Mandate Season 3, hosted by Vidhi Center for Legal Policy and Rain Matter Foundation. This discussion will be focusing on securing the future of the Great Indian Bustard. Today, we have with us Dr. Asad Rahmani, renowned conservationist and ornithologist. He has also recently published his memoir titled Living with Birds. We also have with us Dr. Sumit Dookia, whose current work emphasizes the GIB as a keystone species in the Thar Desert. They will be in conversation with Devaditya Sinha, lead Climate and Ecosystems team at the Vidhi Center for Legal Policy. This discussion will continue for 40 minutes, followed by a Q&A session with the audience. The discussion is about the Great Indian Bustard, also referred GIB, one of India's most iconic and critically endangered bird species, which is native to the arid and semi-arid grasslands of the Indian subcontinent. Over the past decades, its population has faced a sharp decline, leading to its classification as critically endangered by the IUCN since 2011. Listed under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, the GIB is among the world's heaviest flying birds. It has disappeared from over 90% of its former range, including protected areas in Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, and Maharashtra. Today, only an estimated 100 to 125 individuals remain in the wild, with the Jaisalmer region in Rajasthan sheltering around 100 of them. Revered locally as the Godawan, it also holds the title of Rajasthan's state bird. A recent Supreme Court judgment has rekindled national attention on the GIB, balancing the rights of climate action against the urgent need for species conservation. This landmark case has intensified debates on reconciling biodiversity conservation with net zero targets. There are also conservation breeding programs by the government to reintroduce the GIB into its former habitats across these states. Now, this discussion aims to spotlight the urgent on-ground challenges and enforcement gaps threatening the GIB survival from habitat degradation and climate change. Our speakers, Dr. Asad Rahmani is a distinguished conservationist and former director of the Bombay Natural History Society, BNHS. He currently serves as a scientific consultant for the Corbett Foundation and the Hemchandra Mahindra Trust. And he is an active board member of BNHS. With extensive experience in various committees under the Ministry of Environment and Forest, Dr. Rahmani has authored 26 books, nearly 160 peer-reviewed scientific papers, 90 book reviews, and other 350 popular articles on nature conservation. His leadership roles have included serving as a Global Council member of BirdLife International UK and chairman of the BirdLife Asia Council from 2006 to 2013. Dr. Rahmani has a profound interest in grassland and wetland birds, particularly in advocating for lesser-known species and habitats. He has guided 11 PhD students and has been recognized with multiple awards, including Lifetime Achievement Awards from Vasundhara, Pune, and Nature Mates Kolkata, as well as being named a Member of Honor by BirdLife International. We also have Dr. Sumit Dookia, born and raised in Western Rajasthan, who brings a deep-rooted passion for community conservation, influenced by the initiatives of his family elders. A trained wildlife biologist, he has dedicated to conservation efforts since 1999. His PhD has focused on the ecology of the Indian gazelle, Chinkara, in the Thar Desert. He has also served as a research fellow at the Zoological Survey of India and a postdoctoral fellow at the Wildlife Institute of India. He has also served as a scientist in ornithology at BNHS, specializing in bird hazard studies for the Indian Air Force. He actively collaborates with local communities to promote conservation, improve livelihoods, and sustainable development. His long-term research on the region's mammals and birds has provided valuable insights into ecological changes and has contributed to the designation of 5 areas as conservation areas. He has been an associate professor at the University School of Environment Management at GGSIP University, Delhi since 2010. Dr. Dookia also serves as an honorary scientific advisor to the ERDS Foundation, leading a project focused on GIB community conservation in Western Rajasthan. Now we'll be beginning with the session. We request you to keep your phone silent. The session is being recorded. If you don't want to be recorded, please let us know. Thank you.
Please, sir.
So, please.
Thank you, Suti, and thank you everyone for joining today for the discussion. Just a minute. Yeah. So, the Great Indian Bustard is a species which has now become the iconic representative of all near-extinct birds of India. And whether it's Bengal florican, Finns weaver, Jerdon's courser, Himalayan quail, the list goes on. Although we'll be discussing GIB today, which is the subject of the talk, discussion today, but I guess habitat loss is one thing which is common in all such species which we usually see. And only difference can be the trigger or the reason for such habitat loss or whatever the loss of the species. And when we talk about GIB, so we will mostly talking about the Jaisalmer region. Of course, Dr. Rahmani mentions that GIB habitat was entire India and now it is unfortunately limited to Jaisalmer region. Is the audio fine? It is. It's fine. Okay. Okay. And the recent Supreme judgment on the right against climate change and the GIB conservation. This again brought into spotlight the species. Of course, people like Dr. Rahmani, Sumit Dookia, they have been talking about the need to conserve. Dr. Ranjit Singh is also here, sitting here. So we have been hearing all those things, but this recent judgment on this power line cable, under cable, all this thing, and the way it is portrayed by the court and by everyone. So there's one more angle to it now. It's not only just the conservation versus development. Now we also have a right against climate change. and we will discuss anyway and during the discussion. And before I begin, I just want to make certain personal experience I want to share. Like I have known Dr. Rahmani since last 1 decade, and I'm too young that time, and I was not a trained biologist. I'm working on sloth bears. He was that time director of BNHS, and he reached out to me for तुम्हारे यहाँ पे birds कौन से मिलते हैं? No, I was clueless, and called me ignorant. Or fortunate that I met him. So both ways. So he said, अच्छा मैंने कहा bird तो मैंने कभी देखा ही नहीं वहाँ पे मैं ट्रैक ही नहीं किया. He said, अच्छा habitat फोटो भेजो. मैं क्या भेजूँ? I never thought of clearing habitats. But those two things actually opened my mind. When we talk about wildlife, and it was never through lecture or something. It was only through discussions. And we were constantly in touch with him. And he was so humble. I never found himself that I myself talking to a director of such a large good institution. He himself is such a known person. When I used to send him something, he will personally edit them, send comments, very detailed comments, very disciplined. कि ये deadline है तो I will forget, but he will definitely send and सलाह तुम्हें मिला. So I think this shows how committed he is for the cause. And one thing I want to mention here, without going too much detail, that we all people who know Dr. Rahmani or who have worked with him, when I talk to them, they all have similar feelings for him. I think he has that Midas touch. He can convert any wildlife biologist into conservationist. Okay, and I think this conservation values, I think this is most important, and what conservation actually means. Today, we all discuss, and we mentioned this since beginning, that only publishing paper or photography is not conservation. It has benefit, but we have to actively work for conservation of the habitat. So I was extremely fortunate to have known you and to learn from you. Although I'm not a student, but I think I consider myself a student of yours. I follow your work, and I think everything. And what interesting part was that when I discussed with Sumit that I'm planning one discussion on GIB. Now Sumit has been working in this Jaisalmer landscape for the last 2 decades. Everyone knows him. He's from Rajasthan, so he's very rooted, and he has trained a series of villages. I've been to Jaisalmer last month, and I've seen his work. The kind of training he has done, given to the villagers, converting a person who doesn't know how to write and this to using binoculars, recording photos, sending voice notes, he's taking notes, everything. So this is fantastic work. But Sumit told me, and Rajat Bhargav ji shared the photo. So very old photo, I think 20 years photo, 25 years of photo. Sumit's first GIB sighting and his first wildlife survey was with you. Okay, so now this is what the interesting fact is, that there are 2 generations of people. Maybe I'm the 3rd generation, I don't know. But this is the how conservation works. And with that I hope that today we will be learning a lot from you, because Dr. Rahmani has been one of the few. From 70s he has been talking about GIB. You have seen the whole landscape, how it's changing, the approach of people, the government actions. You have seen it all. And Sumit has been there for the last 2 decades. And so through this discussion we will definitely talk. And to all of you, that please feel free to ask anything you want. Okay, the reason we are having this discussion is that we should have these open discussions. And although we are recording, but if you are not comfortable, you can let us know. We'll this thing. So let's keep it very open and all. First question I want to ask Dr. Rahmani is that when we talk about GIB and this landscape, your name becomes always comes up. And even I was Jaisalmer, the local villagers, he also knows your name. Very young, 20 years old guy. He Rahman sab yahan aa jayega, maza aa jayega. हाँ, उनको दिखाएंगे. But see, they are working, but they want to show their work to Dr. Rahmani. So this is his I think this is very great. But in last 4 or 5 decades of visiting there, so when it comes to GIB, any particular thing which really fascinates you, which makes you believe that everybody is unique, but what makes GIB unique, and anything you want to share?
Okay. So please excuse me, because I have got a very horrible throat and I may not be able to say as much as I would like to say. I don't think there is anything unique about GIB. It is a bird, it is a grand bird, and it is a treasure of India. Like many other species, they are treasure of India. And many people think there is something special about it other than the name, which can be mispronounced and it becomes something embarrassing to all of us. But other than nothing, It is a bird. It can live. It can survive. It has survived for millions of years. So it could have survived for probably another millions of years. Many people say that its population has declined because it lays only one egg. But that is not, ecologically, that is not a problem, because it is a long-living bird, and it can live for 20 years or 30, whatever. We do not know how much it survived, but certainly most of the bustards, big bustards, survive for long. And even if a female bustard is able to raise 3 or 4 chicks in her to the adulthood, 3 or 5 chicks in her lifetime, that is enough to replace the population. So one egg is not a problem for the GIB. Human being is a problem for the GIB. So, and it is a very adaptable bird. Most of the people think that it is found in the Thar desert only. It is found in the dry areas. Yes, it prefers grasslands, short grass plains. It does not live in the trees. It does not live in the hilly areas. Short grass plains. And these short grass plains were present from Haryana and Punjab to Tamil Nadu. At one time it was. And interestingly, for your information, Thar is not the best place for the GIB. It is a good habitat for the Deccan was the best place. Deccan had the most productive population of the GIB. In the Deccan, I'm talking about the 200 years ago when all the grasslands were there, the cheetah was there, Ranjit Singh Saab se, black buck, cheetah, chinkara, and GIB. So they were a part of the ecosystem, which was Deccan grasslands were there, and it does not live in high rainfall areas. So the dry plains is not a problem for that. It actually survives. And incidentally, in Mirzapur also it was found. The nest was found in Mirzapur. There's an old record of and there are many other areas. It was not found in the northeast, but it was found almost 80% of India at one time. And India, Pakistan, I mean, talking about the united India, Pakistan at that time. So it was, so the problem is, it started disappearing mainly because of the habitat was destroyed or converted to crop fields and like that, and overgrazing. Grazing is never a problem. It is the overgrazing which is a problem. Grazing, limited grazing improves the habitat of the grassland and the GIB. But it is the overgrazing, particularly when a very large number of livestock, and particularly goats, and he can also verify, he is doing research on this. When the goats come, then the GIB, because it lays in a nest on the ground, and so it is a very adaptable species, and it has been shown by the conservation breeding program which is going on. Most of the people thought, oh, you can't breed a GIB, you can't breed a GIB, and there are 47 GIB in the conservation breeding program in the last 5 years.
So, sir, I will come to that thing later on.
Okay.
That is safe from, later on the
yes,
governor.
Yes, sir, sorry.
So, no, actually, it's very interesting to know that, GIB was found entire continent, but Indian subcontinent, but now it is limited to Thar, unfortunately, and now we believe that it is the only habitat, and now it is only habitat, and we'll discuss more. But Sumit, I want to know from you, because you have been spending a lot of time on the ground, and you're also doing some restoration in the common areas. As a wildlife biologist, also a community kind of work there. So, if you can elaborate the ecological role of the GIB, when we talk about Jaisalmer or the DNP, GIB is the flagship species. Okay, some people say it's keystone species as well. So what is the ecological role of GIB? If it is extinct, then what will we be losing? Secondly, what is the cultural significance? Because there is a lot of role of the local people who has actually managed the habitat. So with the context of the Thar landscape.
So, thanks Devadityu, and from beginning I have to say that I saw my first GIB with Rahmani sir and Rajat sir, and that was a very good sighting for me, and it was like a new bird for me. So I said, sir, wo kya hai? Then Rahmani sir said, this is that which we are looking for, and there were 2 birds of very huge size standing just close to a GGSIP bush and close to Bikaner, and right now there is no GIB in Bikaner. So, like in my own lifetime, which is not that much of long, which sir is having, but I have seen that population is shrinked up to a very small area, and that is a very challenging for all of us to understand. Like there is no way to save, like where we have to go, and so it's like within 24-25 years, we have seen a huge decline in the population, including Rajasthan, and many of the rest of the country. We know that birds are on the digits, like 1 in Karnataka, 2 in Gujarat, or something like that. And the only hope is now available in Jaisalmer, which is like Rahmani sir said, that it's the least habitat which is being perfected by the GIB. But this is the only hope that we have to see. So I am trying to see everything from the the other side of the table. And up to 2011 or 10, I was a kind of a researcher who used to go and collect data on biology or the sighting records and other things. Then I started reading many of the reports and try to discuss with the locals that where is the gap. So bird used to be found in any of the village, in any of the agriculture area, even in the pasture land, the coastal land, everywhere. And we always try to see that if you want to conserve the species, then you have to have a protected area. Now, in this GIB case, you don't need any protected area. So this is the, like, you can increase the size of the protected area, but that is not going to solve a problem. The problem lies with the species itself, which is very, very sensitive, and it can go up to like any distance in a single day. Some of the birds are having a radio collar by WIA, and from 2 kilometer to 22 to 27 kilometer per day movement is being monitored by through the radio tag birds in this thing in a single day. So you can go like from 27 kilometer, it goes and come back to the nesting site or the breeding site. So that is a on a single day movement, and population is right now more outside the protected area. So forest department, in my own understanding, forest department is not up to that level can do which a other person can do who is from the community side or who is from the outside the forest department. So I started discussing with some of the forest department officers, and 2012 to 13, it was a very interesting time frame in Jodhpur, when 2-3 very sincere forest officers came, and they were like very open to listen the dialogues, and they were ready to have a dialogue with the locals. So that was a time when they said that tum kar kya sakte ho, sir? I said that, sir, give me some time of yours, then I have to bring you to the locals and we can have some chit chat type of thing and kuch beech ka rasta nikalte hain. Then there was a very clear gap. Ananda must be having that we are not having any like Bharatpur is having many bird guides. Jaisalmer is not having nature guides or bird guides in like up to 2011 or 2012. There was no bird guide. So people used to go from Jaipur for all the birders to guide them. And that was an opportunity for me to explore that how we have to connect the economy of locals with the bird, because nobody is bothered about, like Devadita was asking about the culture and religion and everything. There is no connection. You are not even able to find a proper, like a motif on a bed sheet or a frame in the houses of anyone in the Jaisalmer or other areas, because it is very serious, very sensitive bird. Minimum 1 to 2 kilometers is a distance which this used to keep from the human being. So only elders or the shepherds used to see them. The normal person is not able to like spot the birds, and that's why there is no clear-cut song up to 2012, 2013. So it was a problem for us to start something at a community level where we can connect with the community. Then we were given a challenge from the forest department that आप कुछ ऐसा करिए कि we have to start something nature guide program. And it was a time where currently NTCA member secretary Dr GS Bhardwaj was a CCF in Jodhpur, and he said that you Sumit आप बताओ क्या करना है. And we were given 6 months time to do some experiment with the youths. 25 youths were being given selected from all the DNP villages. Basically DNP is 72 village cluster inside 3000 plus square kilometer. So we have been given some youth from 2-3 villages, and many of them were either a shepherd or a camel herder or a jeep driver or a hotel boy or like a attendant or something, but they were having something in their mind that kuch naya hone wala hai, so we have to join it. And from that 25 youths cohort, currently more than 5 are very serious guides. They have their own household economy running through the nature guide concept only. And some of them are owning their own website. They have their own vehicle, they have their own guest house. So, and now these 5, 6, even the 25 all, we are having something like 25 houses are open for us to listen. So from there onwards we started that कोई तो सुनने वाला है, नहीं तो हर गांव के अंदर जाके गोडाउन की बात करोगे, they used to run behind you कि आप हमारे यहाँ पे enclosure बना दोगे, आप हमारे यहाँ पे ये कर दोगे. And from that enclosure concept we allowed the public to come outside from your mindset and report your sightings. And now with the help of many of the local youths, 4, 5 or around 7, 8 working with me. Many of them are illiterate, total like anguta chap type of thing, but they are very good in wildlife spotting. And one boy is working with me since 2006. So even I have seen his marriage, his kids like growing up to the school and other thing. So for me, it's like growing together and growing old with them is also a very good concept. More than 5, 6 times in a year, I used to spend time with them, used to visit them. And it's a kind of hand-holding for me. These youths are being seen as a role model in the village. So पहले क्या थे, they used to go for like during winter season tourism used to come up to the Jaisalmer, and Jaisalmer is highly visited tourist site.
Sumit, sorry to interrupt because we have to.
So this is the cultural role. Up to 2012 there was no role. You are not even able to listen any folk song where even a Godavan is being mentioned. So that is the status of culture.
So now we are talking about the threats basically, and now I want to also bring what Supreme Court has said. We all know that like this issue has been there. I don't want to repeat the thing that how power lines are threat to the GIB. There are a report of WI which says 1 year there are 1 lakh bird deaths there. There are 5 GIBs of food. I don't know the exact number. 2 years has dead. But interestingly, what Supreme Court has said, you can elaborate on that. Apart from that, it said that underground transmission line is not likely to benefit the conservation of the species. Now again, interestingly, they said that factors like fecundity, fragmentation, habitat loss, predator and loss of prey affect GIB more. So, not talking about the habitat loss, land use change, power line collisions. So, if you can just throw some light, what is the most significant threat? And you already covered something, but in more like, as a ecologist and ornithologist, what do you think? Yeah.
I think hunting is still there. So hunting is one of the major threat, but now there are so few birds left that people generally don't go for. They generally go for tilur, which is Obara bustard. But if they find a bustard, Great Indian bustard, they will shoot. So Sumit said that they are very sensitive. I have to disagree with him in the sense that wherever the birds have been very well protected, like at that time, I'm not talking now, there are not birds, many birds left, like Rolapadu in Andhra Pradesh, Nanaj in Maharashtra, and Nalia in Gujarat. You can go probably 50, 100 meters from them, they wouldn't, because there were no hunting in that. In Rajasthan, they are very sensitive because they are still hunting going on. That's why they fly away from there. And I'll give you an example. In Sholapur, a bird nested 60 meters from the main road and raised the chick. So I calculated with the fita, jise kehte hain na, just 60 meters, and the trucks were going on or she was incubating. So that is one point. But now coming to the threat, hunting is habitat destruction is a threat, but habitat destruction is not. There is still vast areas in Thar Desert which are suitable for Great Indian Bustard. But the wire has become a major threat now. Electricity, high tension wires. And GIB is a big bird. They have got a big head. Eyes are on this side. They have got a big, beak. And there is a sort of a vision which they can't see in front. They can see on the sides, but they can't. And they fly very fast. They are merely terrestrial birds, but they still fly. And they fly at a distance where the wires are there. So that by the time they see, they are gone. So this new threat has come up in the last 15 years, 15, 16 years. Earlier it must be there, because I have been there for many decades now. So, but it was not a major threat. But now these wires have become a major threat. They are everywhere. I mean, sometimes it's almost like a mesh of wires in the bustard area. The Great Indian Bustard is surviving in the Desert National Park, which is 3,162 square kilometer, and field filing range, because there are no wire inside. Just because of that, in both the wires are not there, there's windmills are not there in the Desert National Park, as well as in the field firing range. Field firing range is around 3,900 square kilometer, and this is 3,160 square kilometer. So, and there are surviving in some other areas also, adjoining areas, but there are always chance. The thing is that the GIB has to be lucky every day when it flies, and the wire has to be lucky only once to kill it. So the wire has become, and as well as the dogs are also a big threat now, because they are disturbing the birds when they are nesting. So these are multiple threats come up, and the wild boars. Wild boars were not there. Interestingly, wild boars, nilgai, and dogs were there, but not in that number. Wild boars and nilgai were not. They came in early 90s. They spread it out with the Indira Gandhi Canal, with the irrigation. When I used to go, the first time I saw nilgai was in Sudasri enclosure in 1994. 14 years of visiting after that. I had never seen a nilgai. And wild boar, I saw it much later. Now they are everywhere. And they go like this, and if they nest inside, they will disturb the wild boar. People think that is a vegetarian. He's not a vegetarian. He's like human being, is omnivorous. जो भी मौकाटेरियन है, जो भी मौके मिल जाए वो खा लेगा, है ना? So these are multiple threats which have come up. These are recent threats, including the earlier threats. Earlier threats have not disappeared, but we have added new threats. So those are the major concerns. And Supreme Court, I don't know whether I'm allowed to speak about the Supreme Court. Dr. Ranjit Singh is sitting there. I think we'll ask him how much we can speak, because it should not be a, what do you call it?
Comfortable. Like if you're not comfortable, we are going to force you.
Sub judice ना हो जाए, ठीक है?
But I think
मुझे भी बंद कर देंगे फिर.
No, definitely. So Sumit, I will come to you where Dr. Rahmani said, and because you have been there. So one thing he mentioned about this change of the local climate. Now, when we understand climate change, one thing climate is happening globally, where we have limited to thing, but also the local climate change because of Indira Gandhi Canal and development of and there is shift in agriculture also. Maybe it was one season agriculture, but now it's a double, triple season because there is water, and there is a lot of different ecological cascading effects there. Like one species will come, there is 2 more species will come, so all these things are there. So these are emerging threats like dogs, or global climate change, local climate change, where Supreme Court has not touched upon it. I think this is also part of climate change, if you are doing it, making it happen. So, what is the experience, like when it comes to GIB, how climate change affects both global as well as local? And anything you want to add upon the Dr. Rahmani said?
Just to add, I am few more things in Sir's statement. Now the population is I am again trying to say that I am working outside the protected area, and I can say from that angle that GIB is using more than 80% of its year-long time outside the protected area. So whatever fence you can raise up to the height, problem is not in the protected area side. Now currently predator-proof fence is also there in some of the enclosures in Desert National Park, which is completely stopping the movement of wild boar and dogs. Now outside that, this thing, it's a daily movement, and around the year with the help of the village wildlife watchers, or which I used to call, like, this concept is being taken from my good friend Dharmendra Khandal from Ranthambore. So this is known as just a GIB Mitra. So they are like sending all the information about the sightings. Thanks to the social media apps, freely available apps, we are getting geotag photograph to prove our things. So first thing is that, like, when you are saying something that I have seen GIB, nobody is going to believe that it is outside the protected area. So it was for us a big challenge to prove that these are the areas where GIB used to be found. And then we gave some good information to Ranjit sir also to try to save some of the habitats which is outside the protected area. And now regarding the climate change and other thing, rainfall is increasing, which is not in any of the person's control, and that is a very challenging trend in the entire Jaisalmer or Badmer or Bikaner region. And there might be many local issues regarding the moisture rise with the help of the Indira Gandhi Canal irrigation, and even many of the irrigated facilities being given by state government and central government. So development is coming at a very fast pace, even in the agriculture field. Now there is only one hope, that is the coexistence. And coexistence means, and departments are, I just want to share one more thing, that departments of the government are also not working in proper sync. In 2020 or 2021, there was a heavy locust attack, and it was like since ages it was not happened, and that occurred in some of the areas of Jaisalmer, and within 2 days, FAO and then locust department started raising the issue, and they started spraying the malathion and other things to kill the this thing. Then I suddenly received information from my network, and they said that, sir, they are spreading the pesticide on the this thing locust in the GIB area. And I raised this issue with help of the Rahmani sir and Ranjit sir, and to all, like, I just try to press the panic button, then this is going to be a very, very lethal for the GIB. And we started raising the issue that locust is coming with full of eggs, that is a proteinous diet, and we have to allow the certain areas where GIB is feeding on the locust, we have to stop spraying there. It was a time of April, May or June. It was a very serious time in Jaisalmer. Summer was at a peak. Forest department recruited some of their, and within 2 days, MOF issued one letter, Chief Wildlife Warden issued one letter, and forest department people used to be along with the team of the pesticide team, and that diet allow GIB to give 2 eggs together, and this is the 3rd year we are getting more than 5 to 6 GIB females are giving 2 eggs together. So that is a double clutch concept, and it is naturally happening. So some changes are there. Some of them are being taken by GIB as an opportunity. And regarding hunting, there is from 2012 there is no non-hunting case. Even we are fighting tooth and nail to even report the poaching of spiny-tailed lizard. So that much of poaching is not at all. Currently, there is no not at all a problem. The problem is habitat being utilized by. This is the open natural ecosystems, gochers and pasture lands are being given for many of the developmental projects, and that is the real challenge where we are losing that 80% habitat being used by GIB outside the protected area, where forest department can't do anything. So this is the real challenge where you have to save the habitat from the revenue department, from the district administration, and people are fighting tooth and nail again. And currently there is one agitation going on in today is the 18th day to save the open natural ecosystem for their own purpose, but we are trying to fix GIB somewhere here and there to make the issue more and more global and national. So like again, I'm saying that I'm looking the situation from the outside, and it is important that stakeholder level conservation efforts very, very required to reach up to the ultimate goal.
Yeah, thanks Sumit for giving so much detail, but also do you think this plantations which is going on in Jaisalmer, last time I was there, so there was some record being done by the security forces of planting trees, 1 million of trees which planted in common areas, and these are problems when the GIB cannot sustain in this open natural ecosystem if they're plantation. But we're talking about the power line collisions, and of course you have mentioned that you don't want to comment much on that. But even as a scientist, if I ask you, like, how does bird diverters which are installed? I'll come to Sumit also later on. Do you think bird diverters are successful, or there are any case studies where they have been successful elsewhere in other country, maybe some other bustard species? So, what are thoughts on that? Because now I think if push from the industries are to install bird diverters and, like, saving the collisions.
Bird diverters are almost 80% successful in some cases. Great Indian Bustard, Great Bustard, and other bustards, little bustards also. But they are not the final solution in the sense. But it's still better to have the diverters than not having the diverters.
What about other birds, raptors and other birds?
Raptors also, sometimes they also avoid when they can see the wire or the diverters are there. This is one region where better studies and more studies are required in the Indian condition. Because they found that they were using the bird diverter in UK and many places of temperate region. They are using the diverter, and the diverter can survive for 2, 3 or 4 years. And they made also very high quality diverters. In India, they found they are made of the plastic, and with the high temperature of 48 degrees centigrade or sometimes 50 degrees. Of course, at that time it is not so much. So the plastic cracks. And within 2 or 3 or 6 months, the bird diverter does not work in the sense, or they fall down. So we have to work on this issue, that we have to accept that the wires will be there with the government policy and like that, those wires will be there. So we have to see that at least in some areas which are on the or the movement path, not on the migratory path, movement path, those wires should be underground. And it has been done in many cases. It's not that it's undergrounding. Undergrounding is a costly thing, but we have to pay for that cost. And in the remaining areas, bird diverters should be installed, which are effective. They should not be only for show purpose, that this company has put the diverters for a few days, and after that no one takes care of them. So we have to take all sorts of measures. It's not just one measure will save this. But the biggest threat, as I said, again, I emphasize again, are the power lines of the remaining population. So WII has made a plan, identified the areas where there should be no new power lines, and some areas where the power lines have to go underground. So we have to emphasize on this point. Regarding your climate change thing, no, bird is very adaptable. Climate change is just the bogey hai for some species. I'm not saying that it is not unreal. It is a real threat for humanity also. But to divert attention, climate change की वजह से हो गया है, गड़बड़ हो गई है. See, the bird used to live from Haryana to Tamil Nadu. तो climate तो अलग-अलग था ना वहाँ पे, है? And up to Orissa, from Gujarat to Orissa, the temperature was different and the rainfall was different, all sorts of things. And many birds are adapting. It's not that they can't adapt it. So climate change, if you emphasize on climate change, all the problem is on the climate change, not on the wires which are being erected every day, almost every day. So we have to emphasize on the real problems. Thank you.
I will touch upon more with Dr. Sumit also on this issue, because there was some, as per judgment, now I don't know the exact situation, but as a judgment which is based on some government report, it says that the demand was for 104 kilometers of power lines in Rajasthan and some 245 in Gujarat. So Gujarat population is very less, but I think stronghold is Rajasthan, which is just 104 kilometers of power lines to be undergrounded. Now Supreme Court has said, and of course it was submitted by the power companies, that it is not possible to lay underground in the cable because it will cause more downtime in power points, and you cannot lay more than 5-8 kilometers of undergrounding thing, and it is more prone to forest fire. All these things are there. That is not suitable. Now, if the court's concern valid, so I don't know what is valid, but I can rely on the government's information. So the Central Electricity Authority's guideline, it clearly says wherever there are human populated areas, you have to underground the cable. In Delhi, we have 8,000 kilometers of high tension wire undergrounded. Okay. I think in Bengaluru, as per the reports, 6,600 kilometers are undergrounded. So for human habitation, the rule is clearly that you have to underground the cable. But 100 birds, less than 100 living in this, only 100 kilometers, we are not willing to spend the money. There is one instance in Kutch, this is also a habitat, there was like 10 kilometers of high tension wire was undergrounded because there were 400 flamingos which died in 10 days. It was a wetland, which is actually not recommended by the engineers also to lay the underground, but they have done it. So I think where their states they will do it. But Sumit, tell me one thing, is it true that, I don't know, some people told me that the kind of high tension wire in Delhi or the states, or jo bhi hai, and the kind of high tension wire in that area, is the voltage difference. And I don't know, I'm not an engineer, maybe you're not, but if you have any idea on that, like, and do you think it is only political will slack, or there's actually some, like, technocratic problem or something like that? Sumit, you can say, and then maybe Dr. Rahmani can also comment.
I just want to elaborate a case study type of thing. There is a process of bidding to get that megawatt power capacity to install somewhere. So they used to bid for a minimum cost which they used to supply to the company, like to the government, like 2 rupees or 3 rupees per unit. Now they are promising this at either in Delhi or in Jaipur. Then they are reaching up to the ground because the land in Jaisalmer is the cheapest in entire India. That is the problem. You can generate electricity not up to like 10 megawatt, but at least 9.9 megawatt anywhere in Rajasthan. But why you are reaching up to the Jaisalmer where only 100 plus 5-10 birds are survived? And we have to understand this concept that you are really saying this year in summer 49 plus degree temperature was there in Delhi, somewhere in Delhi. And that same temperature is there in Jaisalmer. So, and technology is up to that level of high. You are having underline cable in the wetland also, in the sea coast this area also, so you can have it. But that the discussion dialogue, they don't want to take up to that level where electricians or the power engineers and the conservationists have to come at a certain negotiation. They want to do negotiation in separate chambers, and they don't want to give much emphasis on the conservation, which is really required, because they want us to be forced to speak about the electric things and other things, and they then try to circle you in the technical things. We are not at all engineers. We are just trying to say that we have complete proof 10 birds died in 5 to 6 years in Jaisalmer. All the birds are having GIS tag photograph under the power line. We know each and every place where these birds died. And some of the areas where bird died, even the forest department was not having an authentic record that the bird is there. So we tried to give a kind of a migration path also, and during the year-round activity, because the Pokhran and some habitat is more than 150 or 200 kilometers far away. Jaisalmer is one of the biggest area in district in India. So very far distance, two populations are surviving. Luckily, we are having two populations. Earlier, it used to be one. So it's a fragmented population. We don't want any type of more fragmentation in this thing, because genetics used to play in its own style, and only one female can add 4 to 5 or 6 chicks up to the adulthood in its own entire life. So it's a case selected species. Very much is already written on the science and everything, like how they are rearing the chicks and other thing. The problem is in the power line also. And then there is also very interesting debate going on. Earlier we used to say that bird collided with the power line. Then power engineer used to say that no, electrocution. Then power engineer used to say that going up to that much of high tension power line or high energy power line, it is not possible to get electrocuted because the wires are far away from each other. So that was again a twist where the government or the electric company used to give and track you. Then we said that we don't know how they died. You just have a postmortem and get it done, and postmortem report will be the authentic report. Thanks to Ranjit sir, we were able to give 2-3 postmortem report to the Supreme Court also, and whatever veterinary doctor team says, they have to accept it. And in 2 cases, bird was taken up to the X-ray thing, and X-ray was done to see what is happening on there, and the burn mark and everything. So that even the electric engineers are also not convinced enough that bird is getting electrocuted. But certainly death from dying from that much of, like falling from that much of height, is death is certainly 100% sure. Now, just want to add one more thing, that we have to go into the conservation side. We are having one convention on migratory species. That is an international commitment, and GIB is a migratory species. We celebrated GB as a this icon in a convention of migratory species, Gandhinagar, in February 2020, just before the lockdown. And we forget about everything. And our neighbor Pakistan is doing good enough to raise. They declared 2 protected area, and 2-3 days back I received one information through the social media that one chick is being spotted in Pakistan. So they started breeding there, and one bird died in between Jaisalmer and Pakistan population en route to the thing. So we were able to give a migratory path also from where this bird they are like migrating. Then we are also having IUCN, that is also an international commitment. Then we are also having CBD, Convention of Biological Diversity. All these things are mandatory for us to save the species. Rather than going into left and right, my idea is that we have to like constantly ask the authorities that you have to have something on conservation. We are not having authentic population estimation. After 2018, there is no population estimation. We all are like running here and there. What is the exact population? I receive like every month some reporter used to call me that what is the population. I used to say that after 2018 there is no authentic record. कोई कुछ भी बोलेगा, 100 बोलेगा, 80 बोलेगा, 150 बोलेगा. We have some birds in captivity which are said that 47. In wild we don't know what is that. So the situation is very grim and not at all clear what is going on, what is happening.
Sumit. Yes, please.
See, you have rightly pointed out, if there is a will to do it, we can do it. There is no will at present to save the bird. And regarding your last statement, how many are there? Even if there are 120, it is a small number.
Very small.
Is not a big number. So don't go on the numbers. Whatever, even if there are 150 birds, how can you say? So we should not be worried about the number. In the sense, we should be worried about the number, but not exact the number. Whether they are 80 or 150, both are very small numbers. And if there is a will, we certainly can save it. But Dr. Ranjit Singh will tell us, where is the will, sir?
Well, definitely after this I will ask him also to show it. But tell me one thing, sir, I'm curious, like 5 decades ago, what was the population of GIB in the entire Indian subcontinent? Any idea?
It's not a big number, but they were present from Rajasthan up to Andhra Pradesh. And we could have saved them at that time if the habitat was saved, because they live in a large landscape. Rolapadu Sanctuary is 66 square kilometer, wonderfully protected by the Andhra Pradesh Forest Department, and we have worked there. We found 102 nests in not in 1 year, but a couple of years. So they were breeding successfully there, and we saw many chicks. But the surrounding areas were being changed. So the GIB does not live in 6 square kilometer. Same thing in Nanaj also, in Sholapur also. So they are a landscape species. So unless you protect a large landscape, they were surviving in Rajasthan mainly because the landscape was there. That's why they were surviving. But who knew that the wires will come up and we still have a good habitat for great. Habitat is not the problem. It is now the new threats which are the problems. Landscape is still there.
Yeah, I think new threats में power cables are one of the most significant challenge, and Ranjit Singh Saab के case में ही this whole thing came. I will ask him separate after this thing that, but he was telling me if you see the cost of the entire power generation, 3 to 5% of the annual cost is what they have to spend to take the efforts. And constitutionally, when you talk about Wildlife Protection Act, it's clear that any wildlife is property of the state. You cannot hold them or you cannot do all these things. It's a constitutional duty to protect the wildlife. Okay, now I'm acting devil's advocate here. if I'm power company, and if I'm generating power and government is giving permission, now if my cost gets inflated, there's no incentive to do that. Now, if you're saying that it's government's responsibility, then I think the government should also subsidize or maybe fund this kind of efforts, like, to underground cable, all this thing. Because see, there are 10 companies, one is producing at cheaper cost, one cost has escalated. So I don't know, I'm not an economist, but maybe I can reach out to him after we finish this thing, that what is, because this is a very, I think this is more political, a policy thing, this can be solved. This is nothing that this needs rocket science or very detailed discussion. Like, very simple solutions can be there, and we are doing it. I'm not going to too much detail, because otherwise it will become my engineering class budding thing. But there are 2-3 more questions, so I also want to open it for audience. So I will just quickly go to very quickly, Sumit. Yes. So you said 80% of GIBs are living outside the PS. Now there are people, and many of believe that we should not be doing conservation exclusionally, like where we talk about coexistence. As you said, coexistence is a hope. So, but you also said that people say that the DNP is required because they are breeding there and they're laying eggs there, and it's an enclosed thing. And there's a lot of apprehension among locals, and this is happening also because, see, you may keep the habitation of human habitation out of it, but they use the common land for grazing, for pasture, everything. Like, it is not a like Delhi kind of thing, flats se nikle, wahan ke chale gaye. They have their own livestock, they have their own, they traditionally they're doing it. So, what is the take on this? Like, what is the solution? Like, if you want to save GIB, of course, and what I heard, like what I observed when last visit, has also the enclosure is also increasing. So, once the GIB makes habitat, the forest departments or the government acquires or whatever, they increase the enclosure to that. And some places the enclosure has reached to their village boundary, and there are a lot of conflict happening between the state and the thing. It can also escalate. So, what is the thought on that? From purely like community perspective and person who is working there.
This enclosure concept is not accepted by locals because it is totally exclusion kind of policy where they are not allowed to go for the grazing thing. And interesting thing in that, in Desert National Park was proposed as a national park in 1981. We had enough time to get it declared, notified as a national park. And many of the land chunk is still with the revenue department. So there is a huge conflict in between the forest department and revenue department to get it like transfer the land into the forest department. And I think we have already passed very prime time for this thing habitat for GIB to get it from the revenue department to the forest department. Now, when you are trying to see the GIB population outside, even the outside boundary of Desert National Park, that is totally under the community ownership. Like somebody is having its own farm, own खेत, वहाँ अगर GIB आती है, अब आप अगर उसको बोलोगे कि हम आपका खेत अगर एनक्लोजर बनाएंगे, वो आपकी GIB को उड़ा देगा. That is the biggest problem I used to read in the report of Rahmani sir and others. Even all the reports saying that community is not supporting. Now, from that point onwards, I started that how community can work together to save it, at least something. So, in many areas where grazing lands are there, they are grazing their sheep, goats, cows, camels, and GIB is in between them. I think we saw GIB together, where 6 GIB, 2 males were displaying, 4 females were there, in between camels, this thing, and cows. So they are not having that much of problem in my own understanding, because you can't keep A away from the B. They have to be together. This is like we are talking about the land which is owned by the community, which is a land we have in our Western Rajasthan concept as a Oran. It's a sacred growth. They have their religious practices there. They have their village water body. They have their own pasture land. So you can't take away that right from them. Now, including keeping all right together, if we can find a middle path in between these two, and that is the solution where many of the community youths are working with us. Almost all are in contact with Rahmani sir also, and we are having a kind of a open dialogue with them. You do your whatever work you are doing, but try to give information about us. Any poaching case is there, any GIB sighting is there, or any new threat, emerging threat. Because they are always there. Eyes and ears are open 24 hours to get some information. अभी recently I got one information, sir वहाँ पे survey start हो गया. So we have to start preparing ourselves that अगर वहाँ पे power company आएगी तो वहाँ हमारे पास में ऑलरेडी मैप्स है कि वहाँ GIB है. So we have to start like thanks to the all the English newspaper media, because all companies are getting impacted by the English news.
So
We have
one thing. Tell me one thing. Like, do this emerging technology like GIS and all this helps in countering those kind of narratives or plans there?
Yes, yes. What I'm trying to give just one example, that GPS tag photograph. One of my fellow is like totally illiterate. He is having one binocular in hand and mobile phone in another hand, and he is showing the photograph. Like I allowed to meet him. Like we had one very small interaction. वो फोटो भेजता है और उसके बाद में वो बोल के बताता है कि ये मैंने यहाँ देखा. अदरवाइज दैट फोटो इज हैविंग GPS रीडिंग. That photo is more than enough to identify the habitat, and from there onwards work starts. like वो habitat कौन सा है, उसके बीच में इसके बीच में है, and then we can sensitize the even many of the ESIA, because that is also very big problem. All power companies are having white category. That is a very big problem. We have to at least get them into orange or some different color category. MOEF is giving them white. They don't need any type of EIA. They don't need anything. They just can go and kill anything. They are uprooting all the trees, centuries old trees, not 5 or 10 years. They are cutting all the KZD trees. All the Salvadora, like you must be knowing Salvadora का इतना गर्त में कितना टाइम लगेगा. 500-700 year old trees are there. JCB आता है 1 मिनट में उठा के वो डाल देगा. People are being house arrested कि भाई तुम रात को JCB आएगा काट के चला जाएगा, सुबह आप रोते रहिए, वहाँ पे कुछ नहीं होने वाला है. So that category. So I try to sensitize even many of the good friends, because जो भी ESI और जो पावर कंपनीज में जो EIA करता है थोड़ा तो बायोलॉजी पढ़ा होता है. हम उसको उसके किताब की कसम दिला के कहते हैं कि थोड़ा तो ईमानदारी से काम करना, and just give one paragraph that कि यहाँ GIB था. That much line is more than enough for us to raise the issue again कि वहाँ पे GIB था. Your report is saying that why you are denying it. And some of the good friends are already there. वो काम कर रहे हैं, वो पूछते हैं सर आपके पास कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन हो तो आप हमें बता दीजिए, हम एक पैरा डाल देंगे. So that is important. एक ने बोला कि मैं जब तक देखूंगा नहीं मानूंगा. 16 सितंबर 2020 को फर्स्ट जैसलमेर का बर्ड मरा देगरा ओरन में. उसके आसपास में अभी वो देगरा ओरन आपने सुना होगा बहुत ज़्यादा डिबेट में. हमने वो फोटो सीधा उसको भेजा, मैंने कहा आप मान लो. उसने बोला सर मैंने मान लिया, और नेक्स्ट डे उसने रिपोर्ट लिखा. So that much of sensitivity, just all the technology. I am getting information from that place through the social media, supplying up to the all through the social media, and our job is almost done. बाकी लोग उसको मतलब करेंगे, because मेरा अपना ये मानना है कि किसी इंफॉर्मेशन को दबा के रखने से कुछ नहीं मिलने वाला है. That all organizations are doing it excellently, but many of them are keeping their information intact. They don't want to share with others. That वो पानी रखने से मॉइस्चर साइड से रिलीज होता है, उतना से इंफॉर्मेशन मिलता है कि somebody is doing something. And I am working very openly. Ma'am is there from like former WCS project was there in that ground, and many of them are knowing me. मतलब वो एक नहीं होता कि आप हमें अवॉइड कर सकते हो पर इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते वाला. I will be there. लेफ्ट में मिलूंगा, राइट में मिलूंगा, सामने वाले के पीछे मिलूंगा, कहीं ना कहीं I will be there. And that is my commitment that ये तो मुझे करना है. And that's why I don't associate it with any big organization or anything. I am working in Delhi, getting salary from Delhi government, working in Rajasthan. Nobody can stop me.
No, actually, Sumit, you are from Rajasthan, and you are a stakeholder of that part. So I think that is well taken, and no one disagrees with them. So you can say whatever you want, because you are a local resident, you have been working there, and you are from that land. So it's not like I am going there talking about things. So I think this is how conservation should be. The local people should have stake. And this is very interesting work you are doing, because see, this community science part. Because see, if there is no documentation, then there is nothing. So already there is a fight for saving the orans. कोई इसका law नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, deforest का भी, all these things. So this law and policy issues are very much high in this landscape, and which I've been also seeing. We don't have time to discuss so many things, but this point is like very interesting, that white category means you don't need any consent. So, and this APE index which government publishes, so it was revised in 2016-17, I don't remember exact date, but that time they have removed all the ecological angle. It's only pollution is the basis of having EIA, all this thing, and ecology is out of the context. So I think this is a very anthropocentric thing, and GIB is an example, and GIB is perhaps the only one indicator. There are many species. As I said, Finns weaver, Rajat Bhargavji is sitting there. Tremendous work on Finns weaver. Hardly 100 left in Uttarakhand now. It was 2020 something. So I think this kind of species everywhere, like every landscape has one. GIB is an iconic species. So like with tigers, we have GIB is a thing. But last question to Dr. Rahmani. I think you are the best person to answer this. It is a very controversial topic, but I will ask you, and you cannot avoid this question. You have to answer this. So, because but I'm confident you will answer this, because yes, recently, and this is, which is very safe question actually, you can answer this because Supreme Court agrees on it, the government is promoting it, is conservation breeding, captive breeding of GIB. In the judgment also it says that there captive breeding going on, and I interacted with some WI scientists. They said original plan was to release the GIB in 2040, but it has shown tremendous success rate. Then maybe we can see the first GIB releasing in next 5-6 years. It happens in a good rate. But of course, there are people who are like Dr. Harshvardhan, who is a very well-known conservationist. He has been tremendous work, very good work. He has criticized in an article that conservation breeding is not the solution to it. So maybe he has different point of view. But as a scientist, ecologist, and BNSS has been actively involved in this landscape also. So what do you think that about this captive breeding of GIB and releasing it? I don't know where they will be releasing it. That I have not studied that. But also, if there are any risk in releasing them, or like challenges releasing them, so in the wild. So
there is always a risk in science, so we have to overcome that risk. And this is known as a conservation breeding, not captive breeding. Captive breeding is done in the zoos. Conservation breeding, purpose of conservation breeding is the saving the species and reintroducing the species to back to nature. But if you have to reintroduce it, you have to have the habitat. So I am in favor of captive conservation breeding. It should have been started nearly 20 years ago when there were many more GIBs. It is a supplement to the population. It is not the is not an alternative to the population. So we have to keep conservation, if we have to make conservation breeding successful, or I would put it the other way, the conservation breeding will be successful only if the habitat is there and the wild birds are also in the habitat. And conservation breeding has been done in the Great Bustard. They have been successfully in many countries, Czechoslovakia, Denmark, and not Denmark, Germany and other places, where they take the eggs because the Great Bustard lays in the crop fields. So the crop fields which are going to be disturbed, they take the eggs from them, raise the chicks for say 9 to 10 months, and after that they release it in those areas where the Great Bustard is already there. So they mix up, the released birds get mixed up with them. Some may die, that is, we have to accept that. But many birds, many captive raised birds mix up and they become wild birds. So that is the purpose of this conservation breeding. And fortunately, it is going very successfully. And not 5 years, probably in 2 to 3 years, they will be releasing few birds. And the birds which will be released, they will be raised in a very different way. Not in the way because we have to have a stock of at least 50 to 60 birds, which will be permanent stock, which is like a chicken. Chicken just breed karte hain. So those birds will not be released. But we have to select the young ones at the very early stage, and then they will be raised in such a way that there is a minimum human interaction with them. Possibly they will be fed by some other methods and like that. All those things, they will be semi-wild, and those birds will be released with tags. So we will know where they are going, whether they are adjusting to that, and it will be a soft release. Soft release is that you make a big enclosure, away dog-free enclosure, raptor-free enclosure, not raptor-free, or the fox-free enclosure, where you release the birds, where the wild birds are already there. And in the case they are not able to adjust it, then you have to do some supplementary feeding or bring them back and train them again. That sort of, we have to do a lot of experiments. And we have to make that this becomes successful. Failure is not an option for us.
And this has been done in case of vultures?
Vultures, many other species, so it can be done. It is not.
As science, we have to give it a chance. And
Yes.
And we have to see. So we are not releasing it like.
You are not releasing it. It is a very scientifically done by the Wildlife Institute. Very, very scientifically done. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have more questions, but I will not eat up the time of the audience question answer, which is like we really encourage. So, but one question I want to ask Dr. Ranjit Singh Saab that this question, if you are comfortable, that whether you think this cost of undergrounding, who will bear the cost? Is it power companies or government, or you have any other suggestion? Very quickly, if you want to. There's a mic also, sir.
May I make a comment?
Yes, please.
And I'll answer your question. I do not want to be a devil's advocate, but I was hoping that in this discussion of very dedicated people with so much knowledge, we're talking about the problem and we're talking about the ecology of the bustard. What we should be talking about is how all of us can contribute to saving the bustard. Knowledge is very important, but knowledge must lead to the ultimate objective of conservation in the wild. And I think we have not been able to utilize this kind of a thing, and we should now be talking about how each of us can contribute. Because that is the thing. And I will say this while you think we have mentioned about 150 birds. The 150 birds, in my opinion, are not just there. It may be, as Dr. Rahmani said, they counted 63 in Rajasthan this year. Give them 75, all right? 2 or 3 left in thing, all females. We should have even mentioned why the females survive and the wretched males get killed because they fly and side vision. But anyway, poor devils. Anyway, how many in Marathwada? 2, 3? How many in Rolapad is finished, of course, Ranebenur and finished. In the total population in I think that is also finished because they built watchtowers in Karnataka. 10, 12, whether they are breeding or not. Total world population of less than 100 birds. That's what we are talking about. India has had a wonderful record that despite humongous pressure of land, of poverty, population, ignorance, we have had no loss of a large mammal except the cheetah. The 2 rhinoceros were peripheral and they went last century. The cheetah is the only one which has been extinct in the recent past. I'm talking about the large mammals. And now we have a number of them lined up to go. Who cares? The Great Indian Bustard amongst the avian and the caracal number 2, both of them less than 100. And let me say this, I have analyzed extinction. I'm sorry, I'm digressing. I won't take up your time. They must be fed up and want to go home. It's already 7:15. And I'll answer your question. The cheetah went extinct because we didn't know what to do. If any species now goes extinct, when we know the way to save it, it will be deemed, in my opinion, that allowed to go extinct. But if the Great Indian Bustard goes extinct as it may, it will be the only one of its kind which has been driven to extinction. And driven to extinction by the very agencies which the Constitution of India says enjoins upon in the fundamental duties and fundamental rights, that the people shall, not will, shall. And anybody who has any knowledge of law says what shall means are different from will. Shall protect forest and wildlife. The government shall protect forest and wildlife. So this is in violation of the Constitution, driven to extinction. All right. And 2 we mentioned about it in the Florican. I set up 3 sanctuaries when I was Forest Secretary. 2 for the Florican, 1 Sorsen. The Bustard have gone, the Floricans have gone, so they've been denotified. न रहे बांस न बजे बांसुरी, खत्म. The government of Gujarat has 2 females. They don't want a male. They want the bustard to go because they are hampering development. Development to whom? I will also say this, that about the Dr. Rahmani, very, very esteemed, I think I don't want to contradict him, but it's been proved that even abroad, side vision birds, particularly the great bustard, are fail-proof. They are not fail-proof. They have had accidents there too. And it's not only that the birds of the Great Indian Bustard, the peacocks are dying, so many other birds are dying. Sumit will bear me out. And correct me if I'm wrong, but vehicles are sent out in the morning to clear up the bustard and other birds so that people will not come to know. This is the kind of subterfuge that is going on by the very people. So yes, sab hai. And it's against the odds. The way to save it is, and it's very interesting, that, and I've written this in my book, India is one of the easiest countries in the world to protect nature because there is an empathy. We are vegetarians, but we have passive resistance. We do not vote for environment. Has a single party in the last 5 or 10 years made any environmental issue a mandate or a commitment in their election manifesto? No. Only, and you come from that community, it's the bustard, it's the Bishnois. I won't take up your time, I'll try to pick, I get carried away. Anyway, the Bishnois are proactive. And it is not the bustard only we are trying to save. We are trying to save the habitat. Log charai kahan karenge? That whole area is pastoral oriented. Where the devil are they going to graze their cattle? Where are they going to think? What about the sacred groves? Orans. Aren't they also sacred? God only doesn't live in temples. It lives wherever you see nature is very sick. And they are sacred groves. They are as sacred as any temple. But, and let me get at it. Gujarat did a wonderful thing by covering all those canals with solar panels. And it has 5 advantages. Firstly, you don't have to acquire land. Secondly, you don't have to build roads because canals all have roads. Thirdly, you don't have to build the thing because most of them have electricity. And then the 2 most important things of all. If you cover up the canal, you prevent evaporation. And most important of all, you have water right underneath which you can cover up and clean because all those require us. And that is more necessary in the desert of Rajasthan, where the heat is greater, the dust is greater. 970 running kilometers of not one single running kilometer of the canal has been covered. Cover that first. You will serve 5 purposes instead of covering up the grazing grounds and the habitat of the bustard. And it's not the bustard who only is dying. And as he rightly pointed out, these things that we have, these bird diversity, सब कहने की बात है, दिखावा है. We have wind and gales. They got all blown away. Undergrounding is permanent. And as he pointed out, somebody pointed out, they have undergrounded everywhere. They undergrounded even when I raised a shindy, they undergrounded their thing even to save the area near the breeding ground of the flamingos, Khadir. between Kadir and Pachum. They covered it up. If you can go underground there, why can't you go underground? It's a कहने की बात है. It's been proved you can make it underground. 19 birds at an average have died. I think 18 to 19 have died per year. It has been, and I'll quick thing. It's been done. The WII, before the present changeover, has come out with a document to say that if you underground 220 to 260, but 250, all right, 250 running kilometers of line underground, you can save the bustard from extinction, minimum. You require area to go, but to save it from extinction. 1 kilometer undergrounding is 1 crore. 250 crores is enough to save it. There are 104 companies who are operating power lines, windmills, and solar panels in all the bustard area. 16 of them in 1921 made an announcement of their net profit after paying all the taxes. Can you guess how much it was? 2,960 crores. 2% of 1 year's earning of 16 crores is enough to save the money, or save the bustard. It's just money that they don't want to give. They all contributed more for electoral bonds.
But sir, tell me one thing.
Do
you think that government should subsidize it, or it's a
why should government subsidize? CSR money. CSR is not the CSR is law. 2%. Why should government subsidize? Campa funds, and we're talking about saving the thing. Campa funds are not released enough for captive breeding. You have to poke them to do that. Campa funds, thousands of blind. Campa funds are there to build rest houses and buy computers, but not acquire land. What are Campa funds meant for? When we started, I get worked up, but I shouldn't, because.
Thank you, sir. Actually, this is something that.
No, forget it. But now what was it you were saying about the thing? And captive breeding. Captive breeding is not the solution. It is not an end to it. It is a means. It is a fallback thing to prevent it. Ex situ conservation can never be thing. It has to. And where are they going to release them? And can we get the figures of how many eggs they collected? Never. Because वो बुलाओ ना, इतने ब्रीड किए तो किए, कितने एग्स उठाए और कितने इसमें से मैच्योर हुए, बोलो, find out, file an RTI. So it's all, and then we are told that we say they are breeding, Saudi Arabia is breeding the Hubara bustard, McQueens, but those are being bred for falconry. For in 6 months, if they are caught by a falcon and killed, it doesn't really matter to them. But it's a thing. We want a bigger thing. We want to rewild these birds, and the rewilding is not going to be easy. So this should not be a chimera. Yes, we have prevented it from getting extinct, totally extinct, but birds in cages are not the answer.
So, sorry sir to interrupt, but I think we can.
I'm not saying
So I think the whole day, even weeks, will be short to like the knowledge you have. I think Sumit, you already interact with him, and I also reach out to him. I think no, but you already it's very useful. Fayyaz sir, please. Some mic.
With all due respect to legendary Rahmani sir and M.K. Ranjit Singh Saab, a stupid question to make all you to laugh. Why do we need Great Indian Bustard? Sir has said that we need to save grassland. You have cheetahs around. So something which is flying, dying, something which can run, survive. So do it. It's very simple. More attention. So I always say, sir has fathered cheetah. If you fathered Great Indian Bustard will survive. Speaking in something and how you sell it out in the market, that is entirely different. Great Indian Bustard might not bring so much of glory which cheetah brought. Sorry, thank you so much. So therefore, if we are protecting Great Indian Bustard for grassland, so I don't know, there might be some great answer from sir. If we are, if there is an alternative to Great Indian Bustard as a cheetah, which sir says, then there's an answer. Bring cheetah, protect your grassland. Thank you.
I think we have such a knowledgeable audience. It's a bit difficult for me to even moderate because we have great speaker, great audience, and great questions. So I will go from Prakriti ma'am, then Shiv, then Anand sir. Yes, Prakriti ma'am, please.
Yeah, thank you.
On the map, mic.
Yeah. Thank you. I'd just like to say two comments on what we've been discussing. That while it's very important to accept that power lines is a big problem, but we need to accept the fact that the habitat is very badly managed and it is really deteriorating and nobody talks about it. Especially because the communities or the people are staying along with the habitat, and basically it is about 260 hectares or 260 square kilometers exactly where the bird is actually breeding and staying right now. But if you go and have a look at it, there are these enclosures only which have these birds basically, and those enclosures are badly run over by the communities who are staying there. You will find dogs, and I have seen it with my own eyes, that they hunted down a chinkara right in front of my eyes. Besides that, it is where you go and see that maximum their whole cattle is taken and put into these enclosures, which is supposed to be for the GIB protection. And that's one of the things they say, that first of all, the GIB requires grasses, it requires up to the eye levels, they require water, they require safe habitat. And that's what the enclosure offers. But that is what we are not giving it. And that's a problem, and nobody really highlights it. Everyone just talks about the power lines, which is very important. But it's a combination of these two things. That unless you have a safe habitat and you ensure that this undergrounding takes place, you may do all the undergrounding, but if you spoil the habitat, nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to get saved. The roads are being made, there are tractors going through that place. There is so much of agriculture going on. There is no electricity, but people do not want voluntary relocation to take place from there. But why? That's my question, and where I feel that even NGOs and conservationists do not want this to happen, and that is something we need to bring to attention and really work on it. Even one proposal of voluntary relocation from that area has not been done, not taken place. But the point is that when you had the Indira Gandhi Canal being taken, there were very good packages offered and there was relocation done. That was not voluntary. But here, why don't we do that? Why don't we give a very good package and ensure that they have a better life, and we can give them people a better life, as well as the bird a better habitat. And it's a win-win situation. But that is something that nobody speaks about, nobody acts upon it. I think that's something that is very important, and people should look at it and ensure that it gets done. And our people who are concerned about the bird should also answer why they are not supporting this particular way of going forward. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. That is a good comment. But I will take the privilege of being the moderator, so I will quickly go to people, and there was also a hand there. Maybe I will take sirs first, for the sake of diversity. I don't want to go to something. So please, sir, also name and the question on the mic.
I am Dr. Surya Prakash, retired scientist from GNU, and I have been tracking this Great Indian Bustard when emergency was imposed. And since I was in 9th class, and I have been following it, how the then government, curbed all those things, cancelled all those areas. Now, to cut short things, as Dr. Ranjit Singh ji has already spoken about the existence of those two birds in Gujarat, I have been tracking those 9 females. Earlier, there were only 9 females, and that time, I'm talking about all these things under the, umbrella of, rather than saving ecosystem, we are trying to conserve our ecosystem, because that time, the government of Gujarat was led by Bhajpa, and in Rajasthan, it was our neighbor Ashok Gehlot Had there been a transfer of couple of males in Gujarat, we could have saved those remaining 2 birds. As just now Dr. Ranjit Singh ji has said that we don't need it. It is a deliberate attempt to, finish bustard. Now, what is happening, the impact? It is the homozygosity, that is the inbreeding, which is a serious threat in Jaisalmer and Pokhran. I have been going all these areas. The last female GIB was sighted in Sokalia in 2014 July. Last GIB female sighted in Ta.
I will request you to keep it short because
It is short.
This
It
is
is short.
question answer. So basically,
Yeah,
we all have experience. If we start sharing, then it will take up.
No.
Please.
No. It is. I am just suggesting the things. It is just comment as a scientist. So we have to check the political will. We have to check the homozygosity, that is the inbreeding. And the third is, rather than saving, this is the high time, we save the entire ecosystem, that is the grassland. We have wetland management board, we have wasteland management board, and many times Dr. Rahmani and I have raised these questions. Why can't we constitute a grassland management board so that once the entire ecosystem is conserved, GIB could have the better future. Thanks.
So, sir, actually, I will note in the questions. I will come to you because I think, so sake of time, and also request if you have time, we can extend to 15-20 minutes more. We can take questions. I will come. Yes. Comments basically. Yes. Shiv's his works with the news laundry. So please.
My question is, since Ranjit sir was talking about that during elections, environment is not the issue on which people vote. But I think the landscape, the political landscape of Rajasthan is also changing to some extent. In Bikaner and Jodhpur, we have seen Bishnois raising their voice to protect Khejris. In Western Rajasthan, not Western, Jaisalmer and Bardmer, where mostly Bhatis are at the forefront of protecting their pasture land because there is religious and cultural significance that they see. How closely people who are advocating for protection of landscape, GIB landscape, and conserving GIB, how closely are they looking at the political movement which is going on in Jaisalmer? Not at large scale, but it's a very local level. But have you tried to reach out to political leaders who can also help you in your fight towards protection of GIB and landscape?
Question from there also. Name and also like.
Hi, my name is Kashish. I have a straightforward question. The reality is there are renewable companies operational in and around GIB habitat. With all the nuances and loopholes that you have mentioned, if you can name top 3 things that companies should do to reduce their impact, what would be those 3 things?
Anando, please.
So my question is in hindsight. This is a bird of the commons. Now, biodiversity of the commons is poorly understood, never talked about. What could we have done different? Because the PA, I'm not saying the PA, we don't need PA for conservation, but the PA system hasn't worked here. You talked about landscapes, you talked about habitat. Sir, your Nana Jo is your favorite field station. 8,500 kilometers was declared as a sanctuary. Part of Solapur city was it antagonized people. Same happened in Jaisalmer and also in other parts of the country, which was detrimental to the GIB. So we had this knowledge, but we didn't do the course correction, which was necessity earlier. So what could we have done differently? And the second question also, my dear friend Fayaz had asked, this millions of taxpayers' money we are putting in conservation breeding. What ecological benefit shall people expect?
I will take a second question from you. I have already 4-5 questions or comments. So, sir, if you want to address any of the comments, you want to repeat the things? So, Prakriti, we ma'am discuss about the.
I have already spoken about my views, so I don't have anything else to say. I don't have much to say. Also, my throat does not allow me to talk too much.
So I just try to conclude everything together to in a some thing. Like Prakriti ma'am said, relocation. This is being under discussion since ages. So my opinion is that why we should relocate them, because GIB is already outside the protected area. It's everywhere. In Jaisalmer, many of the areas where GIB forest department was not accepting, we showed them that there is a GIB. It's under the pipe electricity line. It's being killed. You have to take it, your species from individual from there and get it postmortem done and verified. Now, the many of the areas like Sir Ranjit sir was saying, we like people are always money centric. So we have to incentivize something for them to join the conservation journey rather than going antagonistically against the certain things. Power companies are offering them money to lease their land. Same way, we can also take the land on lease. I am doing some experiment in a very minuscule size, just 15 hectare, but that land is in negotiation with us. He is not doing farming. Now that land is under restoration. Now, same way we can take larger landscape in between the enclosures, and we can make a contiguous habitat in that 250 square kilometer habitat. And ma'am, I am dead sure that many of them are ready to have, because nobody reject the money. The problem in DNP is that they want development at any cost. Now, this is a development for them to get money monthly or yearly, because nobody in today's time, everybody is having all the facility of social media and electricity and everything. They want a comfortable life. Many of the people in Jaisalmer don't want to get farming, into the farming. The young generation is almost very much in a relaxed mode. They are getting money from all the power companies, lease out their 50% of the land, and they are enjoying their life. So they don't want to go into the farming. Now, this is a critical time where we can handhold some people, some farmers, those are willingly ready to do something. Otherwise, we will lost everything. Now that like continuously we have to take कि आपको वहाँ से हम लोग shift कर देंगे. Nobody is ready to leave their own land where their forefathers like ना survived and died. So that is a very very much intact. कोई वहाँ से विस्थापित होना नहीं चाहेगा. That is, and in Jaisalmer, many of the people are already translocated twice and thrice because of the this thing partition. So that is a very touchy thing, and that's why many of these projects are not getting any 1 or 2 feet advancement. This is my own opinion. Now in that Swayasar's and Ananda's this thing comment, this is a very interesting thing that it is not being highlighted as a keystone species of grassland. So I am trying my like मैं अपना एक सुर अलग ही एक तार का वाद्य यंत्र बजाता हूँ जहाँ पे कोई म्यूजिक बजता है तो ठीक है, नहीं बजता तो ठीक. They are keystone species of arid and semi-arid grasslands. We are not having any representation of arid grasslands. So like it is found from Haryana to somewhere there's this and that, but in current situation this is only breeding in Jaisalmer. So Jaisalmer is the only hope where we can see a little bit of light of conservation. People are ready to come. They want, like many of the we have very good like regular visitor every alternate month. Some of the like audience used to visit Jaisalmer to see the beauty. They want to spend time with the locals. They want to go and see the birds. These birds are in between their farmlands. So why we have to see? These are the keystone species. It is eating everything from snake to rodent to grasshopper to even the scorpion, from day to night, everywhere. They are eating termites, everything. And people are very much happy to see them. So it is a keystone species, though it's very late to be highlighted, but still there is a hope that we have to keep again and again. And I am also trying some sort of like again saying experiment. Nobody associated it with a glory. It's a state bird, but nobody is talking about its status. Like since last 5-6 years, we are trying to see. जिसको भी कोई ज़्यादा बोलता है उसको पूछते हैं कि दूसरी bird कौन सी होगी, because we have to decide which is the second state bird we are going to propose, because GIB is going to lost. Now वो चुप होके बैठ जाएगा, नहीं ऐसा तो नहीं होने देंगे. तो फिर it's very touchy to उसको थोड़ा रब करते हुए हम जाते हैं कि भाई अब दूसरा suggest कर दीजिए आप. And he is saying that it is not possible, and how we have to let a species to get extinct. Then ठीक है, फिर आइए वापस काम करते हैं. So it's like थोड़ा प्यार मोहब्बत it's like चलता रहता है. And it's very important that everybody should be in a positive side, that there is a hope. चाहे 1% ही हो, captive breeding center is doing good. Hope is only in the in situ conservation thing. Communities are supporting. Like Sivanarayan is saying, every day we are getting some sort of agitation, this and that. we are trying to associate everything in a very integrated network where GIB is in the center. ओरण का इश्यू होगा, GIB बीच में होगा, गोचर का इश्यू होगा, GIB बीच में होगा, डेवलपमेंट का इश्यू होगा, GIB बीच में होगा, कहाँ GIB नहीं होगा, and it's a schedule 1 species, so it's a mandatory for government to save it. So otherwise क्या होगा, all issues are going in parallel, nobody is talking about them. So GIB is just connecting everything together, and this is the debatable issue where every company, like my student Kassis is saying, 3 issues हमें बताइए जहाँ पे उसको बेनिफिट हो सकता है. हमें बेनिफिट उनको क्यों बताने हैं? उनको बताइए वो कंजर्वेशन के लिए क्या करते हैं. If they are ready to come, we are ready to give suggestions. So they are doing some CSRs, like many of the projects are at a 10% commissioning, 20% commissioning, 30% commissioning. Even few projects are there. Electricity was supply नहीं कर पा रहे because of the line connection is not being permitted for them to connect to the grid. So it is a problem for all the companies. The solution is that the court is going to give us some guidance. Report is, I think, being submitted. Supreme Court decision is being like people are eagerly waiting to see the decision कि वो decision क्या होने वाला है. And जो भी decision होगा, it's again a win-win situation. कुछ तो मिलेगा. Otherwise, it's already going.
Yeah. No, you are very right. And to address what Prakriti said and what Gobind Singh was saying, see, I think in last 10-12 years there has been significant change in how communities perceive the biodiversity because of engagement. And I think last Green Mandate where Prakriti ma'am, I'm guessing, was there, he also said this thing. Community, local community, they need some guidance. They need someone to engage with them for long term and persistently doing things to educate them, and things can happen on ground. So I think there are many examples in the country also, and I think you and many other organizations working in habitat. So I think there is some optimism as well, and we are seeing that. And as a, like, we have to do a decision, we have to do things. So we cannot say ye nahi karna, nahi karna. As Rahmani has said, supplementing ke liye wo karna hai. But one more shift asked, I want to quickly, that whether as a communities, because there is a lot of protests going on for Oran acquisition, all these things are going on. So whether they approach politicians and outreach to them, what is their say on that? Very quickly, if you can just address. And 3 things what power companies can do. I think there's one more thing that as Gobind Singh also said, that we need to communicate with the markets as well. We're actually ignoring the markets, like the CSR money, everything. Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why don't we target the school children? Everywhere. They are the best investment of all, and they run across this. If they are convinced about that state bird, and it is still the state bird, so I've told Chief of Minister of this, you converted the chinkara to the camel as a state animal. So now when the bustard gets extinct, will you go and make it into a murga, a state animal bird? So it's still the state bird, and it is theirs. If the school children of I think could be, you are spreading more than the Bishnoi community.
So Sumit, very quickly, because we have 2 more questions pending. So yeah.
For the Kassis, I just want to say one thing, that CSR projects in restoration, because it is also saving the carbon. So win-win situation for companies to invest something on grasslands, because it is a habitat, so it can save the bird. It can do some sort of their target for carbon sequestration and other thing, and ample of land is there. They can take land on lease. Why they want to go for other land? Even you can take private land. People are ready to give it. When they are giving for the solar company to install their this thing, and that is for 30 years, they are not allowed to enter into their land. In my experiment, I am doing experiment. The owner is still owner. He is fully proud owner. He is getting something from our this thing experiment, and he is showing his birds and other birds somewhere here and there. And regarding that, sir, we are doing some experiment. Again, experiment. Why I am saying, because money is a big thing in the all projects. To the school childrens, running some sort of a one-to-one campaign, and some of the villages youths are already working with us around Pokhran, because there is very small protected area in that site, and we are having more than half population in that Pokhran site.
So, sir, please,
are you going to? Sorry.
Sir, please.
All right.
Yes, maybe quickly we can just. Please.
Of course. I hope you're going to allow natural regeneration. You're not going to tractorize and try to sow seed. That's what the forest department does. If you want to do, just broadcast seed of Centrus Sileris, Dactylon, and Saehima nervosa.
Yes, sir.
Three species. Don't go and tractorize. You'll finish them.
So only natural grasses are being allowed.
So, Vijay,
My question is asked by Dr. Gobind Singh.
great. Any more questions?
I just like to add that one comment only, that while voluntary relocation means where it is voluntary, therefore only people who are interested. So why don't we at least give them a possibility if they want to move out, if we tell them what are the advantages, they'll avail of it. But saying that no, it's not a thing on the table is what is the issue that I was trying to highlight. At least if people are given that option, they would maybe use it and maybe move out to a better life. But not having it as an option and opposing it from various people on their behalf is something where there is a problem.
Definitely, and this is what like you should ask community what they want, not someone telling them you should do in this way. Definitely. Yeah.
Also telling them what are the causes and effects. So you see, when people tell them it's not good, then they are already having a mindset like that. But if you tell them the options and what is the possibility, that is a very, very important way to go forward. Community engagement in all its forms is very important.
So last question from Vijay. I think he's not ready with his question, so please.
Yeah, I was concerned about, hi Sumit. I was concerned about, what is people's participation in all this. And therefore I was wanting to know how are children relating to the, this iconic species which is going to disappear sometime soon. Another thing that comes to mind is how is the urban Jaisalmer looking at the situation? Do we have a campaign? Do we have understanding? Because I know Forest Department for sure is not, for them conservation breeding or captive breeding is the way forward. But how is the community, urban community is looking into it? Thank you.
I can add little bit in your and then Surya Prakash's word also. We are trying to kind of a very long term people's mind steady type of thing, and some of the folk songs are being written in last 5-6 years, and these folk songs are being local artists are being invited in some of the resorts. I am not saying that कि सब जगह ऐसा हो रहा है, but few of the experiments are being done, and वहाँ पे वो अपने गाने के साथ में लंगा मणिया type of thing, and one of them is who wrote this song is a Padma Shri awardee. So उसका सब कोई सुनते हैं, तो हमने उनसे रिक्वेस्ट किया, and they are like playing के गोडावन की सुनो आरज में, it's like one song they used to sing because it is important to highlight everywhere, like the Shiv was saying, हमने like Vishnu ही नहीं है, सबका है. Oran is like village commons are alls. It's not for any community or not for a single community. It being owned by everybody, even for you, for me, that Oran is open for all. So it is not like कि कोई उसको पकड़ के रख सकता है, and because the grazing rights and Jaisalmer's economy is agro-pastoral thing. So they are doing some sort of agriculture, but largely they are dependent on the pastoral thing. So their grazing rights are highly impacted because of these power projects. So some type of some sort of incentives can be given to the grazing community, the pastoral communities, because otherwise their livelihood is totally gone. They have sold their 500-600 sheep रखते थे, वो 100 पे आ गए. वो कहते हैं सब मैं कहाँ पे चराऊंगा, and some of these like camels and other things वो stall feed नहीं कर सकते, वो खड़े खड़े बीमार हो जाते हैं. So it is very seriously impacting them. हम लोग सिर्फ एक की बात करते हैं, पर उनका लोकल अगर आप इकोनॉमी देखेंगे तो वो पूरा ही वो क्रैक हो रहा है. Like city people, they can survive on anything. तो वहाँ पे जैसे ओरण का we are proposing something to in the name of like ओरण यात्रा is a campaign, but city people and the tourist can go along with the locals even for grazing circuit type of thing. वो दिन में अपना time spend करे, दाल बाटी खाए, भेड़ के दूध की चाय पिए, something like they want to experiment rural tourism thing. उनको कुछ ना कुछ नया चाहिए, otherwise every many of you have been जैसलमेर, 2 दिन में 1 दिन में पूरा जैसलमेर खत्म हो सकता है टूरिज्म के लिए, बाकी कुछ बचा ही नहीं उनके पास. So they are selling new concept to the tourist, to the tourism industry कि we have some more in the package, and that package is being given, locally is getting benefited. So benefit is the only thing they like जैसलमेर is like since ages लोगों ने पैसा देखा वहाँ पे, इकोनॉमी देखी, तो उनके लिए एवरीथिंग इज मनी. सो यू हैव टू कनेक्ट विद मनी, दे आर रेडी टू लिसन यू, अदरवाइज वो खाली गोडाउन पे बात ही नहीं सुनना चाहते.
Actually, Sumit, also one thing, going to ships and just thing that Jaisalmer doesn't have its own MP. There's government
Yes,
MP.
that is
So
a very
basically
big
also people
problem.
don't have that voice to raise.
Very big
And there's an incentive for the MP to work for Jaisalmer also. So this is the one thing I want to believe. One last question to Rahmani sir, because you have not responded. This is like I want to ask you that if someone is not part of the landscape, not resident, how can they contribute? And he's not a conservationist, then how can he or she contribute to conservation of GIB? If you can, like.
By voting to the party which talks about conservation.
And with this, I want to thank Dr. Rahmani and Dr. Dookia to openly share their thoughts, and also the esteemed audience, and really esteemed audience. All are like very experienced, and we are really privileged to have this kind of conversation. And of course, there is shortage of time. Otherwise, we want to have these discussions more and more time. But I think. And we have stayed for 2 hours, and it itself shows that how much we're interested. I will just request quickly Shashank and Stuti to give the mementos to Dr. Rahmani and
Actually, I will request Sumit
Yes.
that he should see somehow one GIB should get at least 50,000 votes.
Some party with the GIB emblem should be.
There is a liquor known as Godam.
So, Dr. Rahmani. So, sir, there's a publication Green Hour which you publish. Shashank, Sumit. उधर से Yeah, so this is a publication which we have been publishing on tracking the parliament on like how it's performing environmental things. So it's also available online, you can read it. And thank you very much for being here. It's already 8 o'clock, I don't want to take more time. And this will be recording, we will put on YouTube later on, maybe in a couple of weeks. So you can see it from this YouTube channel. Thank you very much.